Hey everybody, and welcome back to Firefall History. We've got a whole lot to talk about, so I'm going to be talking like this the entire episode. No, just kidding. We do have a lot to talk about, but it's going to just take some time. Today was the first milestone patch, or I guess you should call it expansion now, since the game is launched. Let's jump right into the new stuff before we move on to things like bug fixes and adjustments. First off, we've got two new primary weapons that were designed in part by the top resource donors from the pre-launch migration event: the Plasma Flat Cannon and the Bio-Injector. The Plasma Flat Cannon is a plasma cannon variant that has a higher rate of fire than the standard one, with a lower damage output and a much larger AoE radius. The projectiles will bounce off a hard surface once before detonating, which they do in close proximity to an enemy or after a set duration. This is very much a weapon that rewards just filling an area with plasma as opposed to direct hit damage, which is different than the three variants we currently have. The near miss AoE is comparatively very good, and the weapon is at its most useful when you're hitting 3 to 4 humanoid enemies at a time. I didn't really get a chance to try this out on the more animal-like creatures on PTS, but I think this weapon may be more catered towards group pumping than anything else. Its alt-fire is also a mini afterburner that, when used in conjunction with the other afterburners in the game, like Inferno Dash or Afterburner, or Cannonball Afterburner now, we'll get to that later, and perhaps Burn Jets, finally offers an easily obtainable method of flying. It does consume ammo, so flight time is limited unless you could do it using the traditional methods anyway. The Bio-Injector is a spin-off of the Bio-Needler with a much lower rate of fire, but it inflicts damage over time on all enemies it hits, which does help a lot. I like to use it on the Recluse with a Siphon unit perk equipped, and it's pretty much a straight upgrade over the standard Bio-Needler in my opinion, unless you really like that submachine gun style shooting. The alt-fire also grants healing over time to friendlies, which is really nice because now all biotechs, including my Recluse, the way I like to play Recluse, have the ability to grant healing without healing abilities attached, which is something that I've been waiting for a while. In addition to the new primaries, they've also introduced some new elemental weapon prefixes, which modify behavior in some new and interesting ways. First off, we've got the thermal and blazing thermal prefixes. Weapons with these prefixes will inflict a small amount of bonus damage with each shot, and also have the chance to ignite enemies on impact. Chances are actually pretty good when you consider that most of them fire multiple rounds per second. It's like 5 to 7% depending on which one you get. And the shotgun technically fires 10 rounds for every shot, so theoretically you could be lighting every third enemy you kill on fire. Next up is Bioactive and Virulent Bioactive. These are basically exactly the same as thermal prefixes, but they use poison instead. And finally we have Electrical and Charged Electrical. These have the same extra damage that the thermal and bioactive prefixes have, but instead of having a chance of inflicting damage over time, there's a chance that damage from the hit will chain to a nearby enemy. This is actually really cool and reminds me of weapons from some of the early Ratchet and Clank games, specifically the shock mods from Going Commando, if you guys remember those. Anyway, moving right along, there are two more prefixes that are exclusively for secondary weapon. Beam and laser beam weapons have a lower rate of fire, but are more accurate and do more damage. In addition to being cooler, I mean, lasers are cooler than bullets any day. And we also have microplasma and emissive microplasma. These weapons have only slightly more damage, but have taken a hit in the accuracy department, and their rounds will also ricochet off of hard surfaces, allowing you to shoot blindly around corners, because the weapon wasn't inaccurate enough to begin with. I say that, but it actually does sound pretty cool, and I think I might use it in some situations, particularly on a couple of story missions. Now, as for the double, like the bioactive versus virulent bioactive, higher numbers, that's the only difference between those two. But last up in the new weapons department, we have 3 new grenade launchers that you can obtain. Tri and quad scatter prefix grenade launchers will launch 3 or 4 smaller grenades respectively that will spread out on launch, and a cluster grenade launcher will launch a large grenade that will explode into many smaller grenades on impact. I really like where they're going with this elemental system. Elements have been a factor since late in the closed beta, so it's nice to see that they're adding support for possibly even putting like weaknesses and resistances to elements in a future date. They actually haven't said anything to support that, but it would be really cool to see, so I'll hold out some hope. In addition to all these new weapons that have been added, the Battleframe health pools have been adjusted slightly, and 2 new item variants have been introduced. Dreadnoughts have been granted a 15% base HP pool buff, Biotech's assaults and engineers have been buffed by 5%, and recon is not changed at all. Leave a comment for me in the section below letting me know if you think recons are getting screwed here, because I can see, like, I don't play recon mostly because I'm not good at it, so not getting that health pool, it would really bother me trying to play recon. This was done because they felt that the difference in health pools at the high end wasn't distinct enough, and I can definitely see where they're coming from with that. And they wanted to maintain the difference between classes at the high end. All enemies above level 10 have been buffed by 10% in order to compensate for the higher HP, which is really what I was getting at when I think recons are kind of getting gypped here. As far as new items though, Afterburner has received a Cannonball variant. Cannonball Afterburner was in the closed beta a long time ago, and now it has returned. The recipe calls for Culex wings as a crafting modifier. The item hurls you forward into a ball, doing damage and knockback to any enemies that you manage to hit along the way. Now all we need is someone to write an add-on that plays a certain Miley Cyrus song every time you use it. And finally, we have the Armor Supply Station for Engineer. This one requires hypercapacitors to craft and offers a shield bonus in addition to health and ammo. The shield only offers 20% damage mitigation though, so it's quite weak compared to items I'm used to like heavy armor. Alright, that's about everything to do with battle frames, so we can finally start on some new content. Not too terribly much to talk about, so we'll start small and work our way upwards. 2 new job boards have been added, one at Stonewall in Coral Forest and the other at the Nest in Sertau. These are in addition to reports I've heard of additional new jobs in Devil's Tusk, though those reports are unconfirmed. Also, job boards no longer have overlapping level ranges, so it's always clear which board you're supposed to be at, and that'll make progression between them a lot more linear, but also a lot less confusing. I remember a lot of people having trouble when this first hit PTS, the launch patch hit PTS, not knowing where they were supposed to be at the Thump Dump and Cerrado Plains area, because both of them were labeled as levels 10 to 13. They've also fixed a bug where players were able to collect rewards on job boards that they were not supposed to go to yet. I only mention this because it's really likely that this is going to affect Jungle Strife spamming. Previously, you were able to start spamming this mission at level 36 as soon as you got to Devil's Tusk with a group, even though the board called for, I believe, level 38 or higher. So this won't take Jungle Strife away completely, but it really does limit what you can do. Like, you have to get 30% farther than you otherwise would have on the XP front in order to get to it. Let me just say, guys, I enjoy exploits as much as the next guy. I mean, during the end of closed beta, I exploit thumped until all the frames I had unlocked were the equivalent of level 21. But I foresee a lot of complaints incoming about this, and I mean, honestly, it was broken, it needed to be fixed. It's not that big of a deal. They're going to be putting new content in Devil's Tusk soon. They have put new content in Devil's Tusk with this patch. It'll be okay, guys, don't panic. Job boards aren't the only new content, though. We have some new wandering encounters. We haven't seen any new ones for a while, so this is definitely a welcome sight. There are 5 encounters being added this patch, but only 2 of them are actually new to the game. Caldera, Kresh, Civilian Rescue, and the Chosen Death Squad were all in the beta, so those are returning encounters, not new ones. And I guess I was mistaken about this, but I thought Chosen Death Squads were still in Coral Forest, but I haven't spent a whole lot of time there since launch. The 2 new encounters that are new, however, are Pinata Frenzy and Crossfire. Crossfire is the subject of the new event that goes live this Friday and involves one of 2 possible scenarios. The first scenario involves stumbling upon some Accord soldiers who come under Chosen assault, so you have to save them and kill all of the Chosen, usually anywhere from 8 to 15 of them, though that was all in Devil's Tusk, so I'm not sure if that number will change during the event when the encounter is live in New Eden as well. The other scenario you can run into, and this looks to be exclusive to Devil's Tusk even during the event, is where you run into Chosen and Ophanim fighting. This one you get to either choose a side or kill indiscriminately until all enemies are dead. I ran into this quite a bit on PTS, and I had the idea at one point to let one side win and just kill the remainder of the winning team. As interesting as it was to watch the AI shoot each other, I did not get mission rewards because I didn't actually do enough on the mission. I only ended up killing like 3 guys. This encounter is definitely catered towards recon because the detection range is 150 meters, making it somewhat difficult for other frames to reach in time if you don't have a long-range frame. I could complain about this here, as other people have, because I played Dreadnought, but honestly, I've seen recon saying a lot, look, we don't really have a role, we don't have anything to do, and I can definitely see that after trying to play recon. There's not really much for recons to do. And they kind of have to adapt their playstyle to the run and gun play that is every other frame in Firefall. So it's nice to see them getting something to do finally. The other truly new encounter, Pinata Frenzy, involves a broken down MGV that has attracted some loot pinatas. You, of course, kill all the loot pinatas to get the things they're carrying. This looks to be another one of those pocket change encounters with no real, like, XP rewards or event rewards like the Bandit Ambush or Civilian Rescue, where there's no event completion screen. But hey, it's something to do, right? And speaking of things to do, seasonal achievements have been put into the game, but with a twist. You are not given any hint as to what these achievements actually entail until you complete them. As with all MMOs though, I'm sure the community will come together and figure out exactly what they are and how many there are and what you need to do well before the end of the season. So keep an eye out on forums and stuff if you want to know what those are and how to get them and what the rewards are. And lastly on the new content train, we have Kanaloa Hardcore mode. Well, sorta. This was put in with the patch, however, queuing is currently disabled due to a bug they couldn't get fixed in time and weren't comfortable letting slide. I mean, they did kind of set a date for themselves, which they really hate to do, and I can understand because it really pushes you to get things out at a certain time with certain guaranteed content like Kanaloa Hardcore. I did get the opportunity to give this a go in PTS, however, and it is hard. I'm not really sure if any of the PTS squads ever managed to get it done, and we were given everything we needed to fully purple out our frames. Right now on PTS you can go and get level 40 with all purple level 40 weapons, items, and modules, and Battleframe cores. And both of the times I went in, we didn't get anywhere close. The mechanics have changed slightly, but I'm one of those that wouldn't really want the mechanics exposed for me before I went in, so I'm not going to spoil it for anyone else. You can check it out, however, on like Firefall Live, and I think there's a dev blog about it, if you're interested. I'll link, if I can find those, I'll link them in the description below. Searing fire whips in both modes have been changed to auto-detonate enemies, which anyone who has done Kanaloa knows that you don't shoot the goddamn fire whips, because they leave a puddle of fiery death that also debuffs your jump jets, and it just generally leads to a bad time and people dying. From now on, however, fire whips will kill themselves, which should make you pay a lot more attention to them, and maybe, I really don't know of a way to kill them before they get close, but I guess it adds a new interesting dynamic. I think that was the intent of the fire whips from the beginning. Should make it a lot more difficult, but we'll see how it goes. That about does it for the fun stuff, though. Some minor changes we're making in Broken Pen, such as health packs once again being disallowed. But PvPers, don't lose hope. I'm sure the big one for you guys will be coming soon, maybe even before Christmas, given all the things that the PvP designer, Scott Youngblood, had to say a few weeks back. And last but not least, there are a couple of tweaks that didn't really fit anywhere else above. First off, the Battleframe garage can be used to change battle frames again, which is about damn time. And secondly, much to the dismay of many people, jump pads no longer propel you forwards when looking at them just right. Hey, it was fun while it lasted, right? Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this content-packed edition of Firefall History. Don't forget to leave your comment on the changes in the section below, and specifically the thing about recons. And don't forget to like and subscribe to see more Firefall History next patch. I'll see you guys next time.